speeding westward toward the Pacific coast. And here's an eastbound freight headed for Chicago on the same track. Miles away, the dispatcher can tell at a glance just what is happening. The high-precision equipment in front of him advises him of the exact location of every train in his division, and he may be controlling operation for as much as 250 miles. His job right now is to get those two trains past each other by using a siding. He sets switches and pushes buttons. And miles away, a switch opens. A signal light changes. The eastbound freight pulling 100 or more cars at high speed. The watchful engineer spots the warning signal. Speed is reduced. And as he passes the signal, his new position is recorded in the dispatcher's office. The freight takes the siding and moves along at reduced speed. The signals are ready to be reset. Now that the freight is clear of the main line. With a twist of a lever, the dispatcher notifies the speeding passenger train that the track is clear. And here it comes at 80 miles an hour. Thanks to the magic of centralized traffic control, the trains pass. The freight is still moving at slow speed. It has not become necessary for it to come to a complete halt. There goes the westbound. The pass has safely been completed. Now let's take care of the freight. He gets the signal. It's resume speed. And there goes the freight, back on the main line, eastbound to Chicago. That's centralized traffic control. One man controls traffic on a whole division of a railroad. When you bought your car with its powerful engine, luxurious interior, and beautiful body job, you probably had things like this in mind. To enjoy our beautiful country. But if you drive in our congested cities, you're apt to find yourself in a situation like this. You know, some 50 years ago, an automobile was developed which would go 10 miles an hour. And today, half a century later, that's what some of us are doing, 10 miles an hour. And the parking situation. Do I need to tell you? And pleasure. And this is what you're getting. And this is where you're apt to end up. Why? Maybe we've been approaching the problem from the wrong angle. We've been thinking in terms of moving traffic, when we should think in terms of moving people. For example, look at all the cars in this typical downtown block, many of them carrying only one or two persons. All the people in all these cars jamming traffic would fit in just one bus, taking only a fraction of the space. And with all those cars gone, that bus would really get people there in jig time. In a typical city block, one trolley coach affords enough transportation per trip to remove the need for as many as 50 parking spaces. And a modern streetcar with its large capacity handles enough traffic each day to remove hundreds of cars from congested downtown areas. A modern high-speed transportation system carries as much traffic as 100 lanes of automobiles. And short surface trains, often operating along freeways, offer speedy, convenient transportation. Yes, before you start telling how buses and trolleys tied you up driving home, just think of the number of passengers these important transportation systems carry, and think what a complete mess traffic can be when they're not running. They've gone modern in a big way. Two-way radio cars advise dispatchers, enable extra facilities to be put on the streets to solve key traffic situations. And look at this as an example of how modern a transit vehicle system can be. Your automobile is an important part of your life, as it should be and will continue to be. And if you believe the problem of congestion can be helped by moving people instead of moving traffic, you'll realize the importance of trolleys and trolley coaches. We Americans are regarded as busy, progressive people. And maybe one of the reasons we get as much done as we do is because we know how to relax, how to take time off from daily problems and just plain have fun. For instance, each year, many of us in all sections of the country find sport and relaxation in just fishing. It's hard to describe the thrill of working that reel, knowing you've got a fighting beauty on the other end of the line, and that if you handle your rod right, you've got yourself another fish. Yep. It's hard to describe the thrill, but it's there. Just look at the size of that baby. They always taste better this way, cooked out in the open. There's a real man's meal. Sometimes the neighbors are shy, and sometimes they're as bold as brass. Fishing places run all the way from wilderness to spots where you have to drop your hook after the neighborhood kids go home. Some people fish in lakes. In fact, a lot of folks say it's the only kind. One thing about it, you can get to your favorite fishing spot in a hurry. And some people fix it so they can fish almost off the front porch. Fishing in the ocean is still another kind of fishing, and probably one of the greatest friendly arguments of all times goes on between freshwater fishermen and those who go in for the big ones from the briny deep. But the idea is the same: relaxation away from the cares of the world, pleasant companionship, and the thrill of catching that big one. It's a great sport, no matter where you go. You can have the time of your life just fishing. Here are a few famous Americans for you to identify, each of whom has been engaged in projects which have changed our lives. The first one is easy. It's President Theodore Roosevelt, of course. Now, who is the man on the left? This one may be a little harder. Here's a clue. He was the man responsible for one of the biggest construction jobs of all time. By the way, if these pictures look a little old and jumpy, they should. They were filmed clear back in 1914 at the actual opening of this great achievement, the Panama Canal. And the man we wanted you to identify was the chief engineer for this project. The man on the left, Colonel George W. Goethals. Who is the man seated at the desk? He's one of America's greatest inventors of all time. And this is regarded as probably the greatest of his many contributions to our way of living. Let's take a closer look. Recognize him? It's Thomas Alva Edison. Here is Mr. Edison with another electrical wizard, the man we'd like you to identify. The man with Edison was a mathematical genius. He obtained patents for over 200 improvements in the field of electricity. He was known as the father of alternating current. He is Charles P. Steinmetz. Now, who is this man? He was a general in spite of that collegiate coonskin coat. He was one of our country's earliest believers in air power and caused a considerable furor when he demonstrated a thing like this could happen. Remember him now, General Billy Mitchell. Remember the planes of World War I? And these early crates, we've come a long way since then. And in the last few years, too. Here are actual films of the first jet flight in America, October 1st, 1942. People have been experimenting with jet propulsion for a long time, and not always for planes. principle of jet propulsion is found in Newton's third law of motion, which states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. For example, an ordinary rotary lawn sprinkler turns because of the reaction of the arms and the action of the jet of water. It does not turn because the water squirted out pushes against the air. It would spin just as well in a vacuum. Similarly, a jet plane flies because of the reaction to the jet, not because the jet pushes against the air behind it. The engine itself, with modern developments, consists of two rotating elements: the compressor and the turbine, which are both mounted on a single rotating shaft. Air is drawn in, compressed, and packed into the firing chambers where the fuel is injected. The constantly burning fuel tremendously increases the energy of the enclosed gases, which rush through the turbine and out. The turbine, operating like a windmill, supplies the power to spin the compressor. The expanding gases, pushing their way out the rear at about 1,200 miles per hour, give the plane its forward thrust. This is the heart of the jet engine, the turbine wheel, the most tortured piece of metal in the world. It must not twist in the superheated gases. It must not corrode. It must not tear itself apart at 8,000 revolutions a minute. The turbine wheel, running red hot, is just a few feet away from the compressor, sucking in air that may be 65 degrees below zero. This turbine wheel is an outstanding example of design and craftsmanship. Jet propulsion changed the whole outlook of the aviation industry. Of course, many developments have been made in jet engines. Each new model is more powerful and more efficient than the last one. In one 6-month period, 3 designs were okayed, each more powerful than the preceding one. The last of these is no larger than the first, yet delivers so much more thrust that it is not even in the same class. America's scientists and engineers and metallurgists went to work, and thanks to them, our country is rapidly achieving a degree of jet supremacy which may well play an important part in our lives in the future.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.
Hello everybody, my name is Brad Alcorn. I'm the Canine Coordinator for the Curry County Sheriff's Department. We've got a lot of support from our community with our program, and I wanted to take a minute and give you an inside look at what our dogs are capable of and what our weekly training looks like.
What makes the Festival of Lights so unique? Volunteers. Our community turns out each year to string the lights in the bushes and the trees. This creates a different show each year. Volunteers team up with city employees to set up the displays. Local businesses, organizations, and our citizens staff the show each night, manning the ticket booths and passing out sweet treats at the snack shack. Santa makes several visits each year to the delight of both young and old. But there's more. 20,000 visitors who attend each year. There's caroling in the Capella Chapel and a lovely manger display, one-of-a-kind handcrafted items celebrating all facets of our coastal area. We offer something for everyone in the 4 acres that the display is set up in. Take a look at what our community has created. We invite you to visit us in our 23rd season. You and your viewers will be impressed. Nowhere else will you find a show of this caliber, totally reliant on volunteers and community spirit. Thank you.
Hello, I'm C.W. Smith, Jackson County Commissioner. Oregon's ONC counties, I'd like to invite you to watch the story of our unique ONC forest lands. You know, these lands are only located in the 18 western Oregon counties that stretch from the Columbia River to the California border. This property isn't part of any county's tax base, yet the ONC lands are still considered vital for the continued success of the 18 Oregon counties. How did things get this way? Well, that's just what we're going to find out.
Hello, I'm Steve Carlson, and welcome to the History of the ONC Lands, or Saving Oregon's Future. President Thomas Jefferson had a grand vision, expanding the United States across the North American continent. He called upon Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to lead an expedition that would
No man has seen these sights, but that's all changed.
Yep, we're the first, but we won't be the last.
Did you ever think it would be this beautiful?
Not in my wildest dreams.
The success of their journey set off the westward expansion of the fledgling American nation that Jefferson had envisioned. Westward expansion in the 1800s was an unstoppable tide, encouraged by policies that supported development of transportation routes. Railroad construction across the Great Plains and the Rocky Mountains was subsidized by land grants in exchange for the building of railroads that served military purposes as well as economic development. By the 1860s, most of the east-west routes were completed, and attention was turned to linking the lines with the north-south route through Oregon. In the 1860s, the federal government granted rights to about 4 million acres of forest land in western Oregon to the Oregon and California Railroad Company, also known as the O&C Railroad, in exchange for the construction of a railroad from Portland to the California border.
You men get this track laid by sunset, you hear?
Yes, sir.
We're already 3 days behind schedule. Can't lose any more time.
There ain't nobody who can lay track as fast as us, sir. We'll make it up.
See that you do.
The legislation came with some restrictions that 45 years later were the undoing of the grant. As the rail line was constructed, the O&C Railroad earned the right to alternating sections of land in a strip 20 miles wide on each side of the rail line. This resulted in a checkerboard pattern of public land being transferred to private ownership. The railroad company was then required by Congress to offer the grant lands for sale, but only to actual settlers, in parcels no greater than 160 acres and for prices not to exceed $2.50 an acre.
Is this really our land, Mama? As far as the eye can see, honey. Can we really live here? Yes, we can.
These terms were intended to encourage settlement and development, while adequately compensating the O&C Railroad for its construction costs. Construction proceeded sporadically, finally finishing in 1887, only after the financially troubled O&C Railroad was absorbed into the larger Southern Pacific Railroad. Before the railroad was even finished, land fraud of many types sprang up. One scam had fraudulent settlers rounded up from various saloons near Portland's wharfs to sign forged applications to purchase 160-acre parcels of O&C lands, which were then transferred to corrupt middlemen and consolidated into large blocks held by corporate interests.
Now, you fellas, you better listen up. We're going to take you all down to the land office. That's all.
Oh, I can't read or write my name.
That's all right. Just make him off, that's all.
Hey, what do we get out of this deal?
You get you a bottle of whiskey. And if you keep asking me questions, you get nothing. Now, come on.
Oh, what about me?
And that was just the tip of the iceberg. The Southern is far in excess of the 160-acre parcels, for amounts exceeding the $2.50 limit. In one case, for $40 an acre. By 1902, the value of the remaining lands had increased dramatically, and the railroad company brazenly declared that it would make no more land sales. By 1904, the O&C scandal had grown so large that the Portland Oregonian reported that more than 3/4 of O&C land sales had violated federal law. Newly elected President Theodore Roosevelt vowed in 1903 to clean up the O&C land fraud mess once and for all.
Sit down. Now what I want from you two is to get the real story behind the land fraud. I want names. Hear me? Names!
We'll get you the whole story, Mr. President.
We'll get you the evidence. Got enough of this O&C land fraud mess. I want it cleaned up once and for all. It's dogged me long enough.
We won't let you down, sir.
It took 2 years, but Roosevelt's investigators got all the evidence needed. Over 1,000 politicians, businessmen, railroad executives, fraud fraud, bribery, and other corruption charges. The government also took action to recover the grant lands that remained in the hands of the Southern Pacific Railroad, over 2 million acres. The Supreme Court decided in 1915 that the grant terms had been violated, but the railroad had been built as promised, so the railroad company shouldn't be forced to completely forfeit the lands. Congress responded in 1916 with a solution that took back the lands, but gave the railroad the equivalent of what it would have received had it sold the original grant lands for $2.50 per acre. That meant that over 2 million acres went out of private ownership and back into federal ownership. These lands, in a mostly checkerboard pattern, are known as the O&C lands today. Lands owned by the federal government pay no property taxes. So when the federal government took back the O&C lands, 18 affected Oregon counties lost the right to tax the more than 2 million acres. Between 1916 and 1936, Congress tried twice to provide a long-term solution, failing each time. In 1937, Congress tried a third time and succeeded. Under the O&C Act of 1937, still in use today, the O&C lands were dedicated to timber production under principles of sustained yield forestry. The goal was to produce timber in perpetuity, with sales revenues shared with the counties. The O&C Act was successful for the next 50 years. Counties received half the revenue from the sale of timber, a steady revenue stream that helped pay for essential county services. The O&C timber reliably supplied mills that employed tens of thousands with family wage jobs. The O&C lands are not national forests. The Bureau of Land Management manages O&C lands, while the Forest Service manages the national forests. O&C lands are primarily for timber production, while the national forests are managed for multiple uses, with no use having priority over the others. Revenues from O&C timber is shared 50% with the counties, while just 25% of revenue from national forest timber is shared with the various communities. Perhaps the most significant difference is this. The 25% revenues from national forests can be spent only on roads and schools. The O&C revenues go into a county's general fund and can be spent on whatever is most needed by the county. Public safety, health and social services, corrections, libraries, senior programs, whatever is needed. In some of the 18 O&C counties, more than 50% of the general fund budget is supplied by O&C revenue. The O&C revenues are truly an essential component of community stability in Western Oregon. From the early 1980s and into the 1990s, global economic conditions and environmental concerns severely affected timber production, and revenues shared with the counties collapsed. Congress provided a series of temporary safety net payments in September of 2006, and counties are working. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Land Management is working on new plans for the O&C forests. These new plans are intended to resume reasonable timber production so the revenues can be produced to help communities, but to do so in ways that will better protect the environment and wildlife. If safety net payments end before timber harvests are restored, counties will be required to slash programs and services. No one wants to face having to close libraries and health clinics and lay off sheriff's deputies and other county employees. But these are the realities that would confront us. Federal legislatures, county leaders, and concerned citizens are all still grappling with the challenge of what to do with the O&C lands. The ideal solution would fund county government, provide a long-lasting timber supply while protecting wildlife and the environment, contribute to the economic and industries, and provide recreational opportunities for all. Public awareness of the economic contribution these lands have made to our counties and communities is critical to making wise choices for the future.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this history of one of Oregon's most precious resources, the ONC lands. New generations of Oregonians are enjoying the economic, social, recreational, and ecological benefits of this beautiful state. ONC lands enhance that experience with undiscovered treasures yet to be appreciated. Thank you.
Call this meeting to order. Good day, all. January 22nd, 2021. Special meeting this morning. Curry County Board of Commissioners, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the... Okay, let's have introductions. On the far left, Director. Immediate left, Commissioner Christopher Pash, myself, Court Boyce. To my right, Commissioner John Herzog. And to his right, shortly here, Curry County Legal Counsel John Huddle. To his right, John Jesuit. So I'm going to go to Director Rickert, please.
I do have one item to amend the agenda. We need to, in addition to what's on the agenda, we need to appoint Mr. Barnes as with signing authority and take Mr. Baker's signing authority off.
At Umpqua Bank.
At Umpqua Bank, yes.
So that's on the assumption that we
yes.
complete item 4. Thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Do you have anything?
Nope.
I'll make a motion. We approve the amended agenda.
Second?
Little discussion here. I just want to make sure all the commissioners have an opportunity to speak about why we're here today and offer some input. So if you still want to continue with your motion, and a second by Commissioner Herzog, we can do that.
Then discussion, right?
More discussion?
I don't need any more discussion.
Roll call, please. Staff Jesuit. He's handy.
Commissioner Pash.
Aye.
Vice Chair Herzog.
Yes.
Chair Boyce.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
So, assuming we have board approval, we're here to accept the resignation of newly appointed County Treasurer Douglas Baker. This is our 4th treasurer in probably 30 days. And so I'm going to ask the board to move with tremendous due diligence so that we can even take a deep breath and make sure we're headed in the right direction. This has been quite a time. This is a special meeting today. I don't think it's an emergency meeting. but of the 10 meetings we've had in January, it might be one of our most important. So just communicating with the citizens, we're aware of where we're at, and I want the board to know I did put some information on your desk here. Talked to Brandy McNamee, similar to McNamara, but anyway, she's the president of the Oregon County Treasurers Association. She's going to be continuing to send us information. Whoever our new treasurer appointment is, I'll make sure he or she or everyone from this board gets consistent information available there.
I didn't receive that, just so you know.
I think I put it on your desk there. No?
Is this what you're talking about?
Yes.
These are my 2 documents that I brought.
Pass those.
Here, I want to make sure you have that.
Thank you.
Very good information. Just real quick notes here. Ms. McNamee, I'm sorry, is the treasurer. She is the finance director, and she's also the tax collector of Jefferson County. I'm a little bit familiar with Jefferson County. It's roughly the same size as Curry County, so somewhat comparable. And that sounds like she's doing everything by herself. No, but she does have an excellent staff. And she's very interested to help Curry County, all counties for that matter, any way that she possibly can. And as we go down this road of a new treasurer and one more time fill this vacancy, I believe that she'll be a tremendous resource. She did have a couple notes here that obviously her greatest responsibility is to protect the county assets, and part of what makes her job easier as a treasurer and safer in that level of protection is she has a 5-member board, 5-member advisory board. And I think one of the questions we asked our interviewees last Monday was, would they be acceptable or favorable, to an advisory board? That board, by the way, is 5-member. It's her as treasurer, tax collector, and finance director. It is their county administrator, Jeff Rasmussen. I just got an email from him the other day on another subject. He comes to the county. They're very affordable because he's retired, so he's not full-time. But he does contribute to that advisory board. And then, of course, it's the 3 commissioners. So nothing gets invested, nothing gets moved without, and that's just one county, of course. I'm not saying that's the only way, but it was nice to learn that. And, you know, as we research that more, we might want to look into that if it could be a good fit for Curry County. And then she, through what she referenced, that's in that one single page that I gave you, the government portfolio on advisors, and she sent me a link on that. Some of it, of course, is 70 pages. Another document she sent is 40, but I was very happy to be able to spend some time with her and get that information, and again, emphasizing she's more than willing to help down the road. I don't know how long she's been president, but comes highly recommended throughout the state. So, next on the agenda, do we already have a motion there? No, to accept, sadly, Mr. Baker's resignation.
We have a motion and a second.
Do we? No, that was on the consent agenda.
That was the agenda, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So I'll make a motion, we accept the resignation of Douglas Baker as treasurer.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? You're both talkative today.
Commissioner.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pash.
Aye.
Vice Chair Herzog.
Yes.
Chair Boyce.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
So just a little bit of additional discussion here. We had 2 top candidates who were number 2, which was David Barnes, and number 3 was George Rhodes. I sent Mr. Rickard and the board an email today. Could we consider going to Monday, 8:30 if you want, 9 o'clock, and re-interview those 2 people? I don't know, Commissioner Pash, you may still want to be considered for the treasurer's position. It just gives us a weekend to kind of regroup. You know, that's where I stand, and I think it'd be, I don't want to act in haste here and be in the same position again a week from now. Not predicting that. I think Mr. Barnes on the agenda here has tremendous credentials, but I think just having that time would give us a little added cushion. We may get public input, we may not. So I'm asking the board to just consider re-interviewing the second and the third. Everybody turn their cell phones on. To consider re-interviewing a second phase, if you will, of those two people, of the 5 that we I think did a very good job interviewing last week. Commissioner Pat, did you have something?
No.
I think you were first.
Yes. My comment is that we've already basically appointed David Barnes. I believe our conversation in the meeting was if Mr. Baker was not able to fulfill his obligation, legal counsel.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. You call it a conversation. It actually became a motion, and it was voted unanimously to that David Barnes would be appointed in the event Mr. Baker didn't work out. So essentially what Commissioner Boyce seems to be asking for is a reconsideration of that decision, and it's up to the board if you want to. Because it was a unanimous decision to appoint Mr. Barnes, the rules on reconsideration is only someone who voted in the majority can ask for it even. Chair Boyce did vote in the majority on the decision to appoint Mr. Barnes. He can ask for reconsideration, but that's totally up to the board.
Go ahead.
So I would like to, at this time, make a motion to confirm David Barnes' appointment as treasurer until the next election, which will be the primary in May of 2022 and election in November of 2022.
So you wouldn't be in favor of re-interviewing the top 2 candidates or somebody else that might want
We've
to
already
apply?
been, in my opinion, we've already been through the process. Again, and I don't want to go back, but this has been going on for a long time. And again, I cited an ORS a month ago that we could have dealt with this back in December, and the board chose not to. And Mr. Barnes or somebody could have already been trained. Now we're at the point that we are 1 week away from our treasurer, who is earning $75 an hour right now, leaving this county and being without a treasurer. So I think to push this farther out would be not in the best interest of the county. It would not be serving our citizens. We've already voted on this, and I would ask this board to remember that vote, remember the interviews that we already did and why we chose first and second, and to let our citizens know that we'll stand by that vote and move forward with the appointment.
Thank you, Commissioner Pash. Commissioner Herzog?
I actually went and watched that portion of the January 12th meeting, and between 30 minutes and 20 seconds to 30 minutes and 50, 60 seconds, we made a motion, and it was good discussion, and it was unanimous. So that I feel like we've made the decision already, and kind of glad we did. It didn't turn out the way any of us thought it would, but that's the hand we're dealt, and that's what I'm gonna go with. And so I would second Chris's motion. With no offense, but
no, that's fine. You're articulating it well. I agree that it was a unanimous vote. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but no complaining here. So certainly no hard feelings. I see a little bit of haste here. It caught us all off guard this morning. I wanted to respond properly and not be reactive. If we don't have agreement on the board, I think we have discussed it probably adequately.
I think we were way ahead of the curve, actually. So, in doing that, on the 12th, like I said, nobody wanted to be in this situation, and Mr. Barnes or Mr. Baker is gone. I talked to him this morning, and he said nothing. Everybody was very professional. it's kind of like breaking up with a girlfriend. It's the old story. It's not you, it's me. And so we made provision for this on the January 12th meeting, and I'm going to stand by that. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Herzog. Staff, did you have anything? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. Council Huddle?
Nothing further.
Staff Jesuit?
Nothing.
Roll call, please. Don't you love these
Commissioner
math?
Pash.
Aye.
Vice Chair Herzog.
Yes.
Wait, just repeat your motion.
My motion is to appoint David Barnes as the interim, well, not interim, as the treasurer for Curry County until the next election, as described by the county clerk in our January 11th meeting.
Commissioner Pash, if I could, I prepared an order. Would it just be to adopt that order?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
I'll do roll call now.
Commissioner Pash.
Aye.
Vice Chair Herzog.
Yes.
Chair Boyce.
Yes?
Motion carried unanimously.
So, I will be sure to include you in this information. I think it'd be beneficial, but you could review that and would have a better idea, probably certainly than I would. For the benefit of the citizens, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to do everything I can to support you. And as commissioners, I've always said our job is to make our employees' job easier. You're actually elected position. I'm not referring to you as an employee, but nonetheless, in a small county, it's imperative that we all work really well together. So when I say your job is as easy as possible, I'm as sincere as I can possibly be. Commissioner Pash, I think you had something?
Well, we just need to have another motion before I saw you grab the gavel, and I wanted to make sure we got that motion in.
Thank you.
So I would make a motion to remove signing authority from Douglas Baker for the treasurer's position and approve signing authority to David Barnes for the treasurer's position.
Second.
And that's effective upon him
swearing.
Yep, good.
Well, the removal would be effective immediately.
Yes.
And the appointing the signature authority to Mr. Barnes would be upon swearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So discussion. Commissioner Herzog? I'm assuming we're going to do exactly with Mr. Barnes that we did with Mr. Baker on the background check. Is that
That's part of the order.
That is part of the order. Thank you. I don't have anything else. Give Captain McDonald a bad time for me. Glad you're here. Seriously. Director Rickert?
That's all.
Okay. Commissioner Herzog?
Nothing.
Commissioner Pash?
Nothing, sir.
Council Huddle?
Nope.
January 22nd.
We got
Whoop.
Got to vote.
a vote still.
I'm sorry. I almost left you out, JJ. Call for the question, please.
Commissioner Pash.
Aye.
Vice Chair Herzog.
Yes.
Chair Boyce.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Comment if I could, please.
Okay, that carried unanimously. Commissioner Pash, you had something?
I just, in conversation with Mr. Barnes in the hallway just before the meeting, Mr. Barnes also announced, because he's going to be if he were to be the treasurer, that he would need to step down from the Fair Board and from the Housing Authority. So we will be needing to reappoint those two positions.
Just keeps going.
Yes. In the Fair Board, we have applications just from last week, so we could still select them on the 20th meeting. We could select one of those. I see council's hand up, but as far as the Housing Authority, I'm not sure how the process would be for that.
Good.
Add some alternates.
Just a formality. The Fair Board membership has certain ways to. Anyway, you're going to need to submit both those resignations in writing, Mr. Barnes. Yes. Thank you. That's
So that would be our February 3rd meeting. We will take that up. Correct?
No, next Wednesday, right?
No, do it.
Oh, we don't have a meeting.
February 3rd.
You're off the hook.
That's by the way, that's an afternoon general meeting, which starts, I think we decided 2.
1 o'clock.
And we go till 8 o'clock at night, yes.
I don't
Pizza
think
for
so.
dinner.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. Thank you, staff. Welcome, everybody. Please stand for the national anthem, or Pledge of Allegiance. I wish we had the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome all. February 2nd, 2021, Budget Committee meeting. We're going to do this for 3 hours today, and we will conclude tomorrow, 9 to 12, and then we have a business meeting, a rare 1 o'clock time. So our schedule, if we want to adopt the agenda, can I get a motion on that, please?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, John Jesuit. So today we have the sheriff. Actually, we had him at 9:15, so you were right on time. Actually, a little early. Then Assessor Cullen at 9:30. We have Treasurer Crumley at Deputy Treasurer at 9:45. We have District Attorney Spansel at 10:15. Juvenile Director Wendy Lang at 10:30. Veteran Services Anthony Vowdy at 10:45. Curry Roads Richard Christensen at 11 o'clock. Facilities Maintenance Chet Brewer at 11:15. Parks Anthony DeRock at 11:45. Board have any questions, or do you want? Okay. So we can get started early.
Yeah.
Sheriff, if you like. Welcome.
Give the meeting to him.
Oh, you ready to take over the meeting? You're still the chair.
Do we need to, well, I guess that would have to be an agenda to vote on that, but.
This is still the same budget committee,
same one.
so
We're good.
You're still the chair.
So we will defer to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All righty.
Morning. Morning. Sheriff Forden, Curry County Sheriff's Office. I'm not quite sure what we're here for, other than to say we're within our budget, and we don't have any unanticipated revenues coming in. Other than that, I can answer some questions.
Sheriff, would you mind introducing your people that are in the audience here, just for the public?
Yeah, right now we have Captain Phil McDonald, Lieutenant Joel Hensley, and Lieutenant Dave Denny.
Welcome. Thanks for being here, guys.
What would you like to know?
I think normally we do this, we have to do this for a mid-year review kind of a thing, so there's no real specifics here, I don't believe.
We have no surprises with any of our divisions. I can tell you recently that we had a big search on federal forest lands for 4 missing people that were up in the snow and stuck overnight. One was a developmentally disabled adult, and we got search and rescue running after them. We had a little side-by-side with tracks on it. It struggled to get to where the vehicle was, but wouldn't go any further. And unfortunately, 2 other people had decided they would try to walk out from the Lawson Creek Road. And of course, you know where that's at, Lawson Creek and Wild Horse. And they were going to walk 15 miles through the snow that was up to their crotch. And we didn't think they'd make it, which they probably would not have. There was a lot of, in that area, if you're familiar with it, it looks fine when there's no snow, but when there's packed snow everywhere, you don't recognize where you are. And we were afraid they were going to take a side road and go downhill and end up where we could not find them. So I called Josephine County and Jackson County both looking for a snowcat that would make it up in those areas. Josephine County's had a power outage that day, and their snowcat operator was not available. Jackson County had 2 snowcats, but they're both out on searching for 8 missing people in Jackson County. And so I felt it was imperative that I need to get equipment over here that would make it through that area up there. And in the past, we've always had problems with trying to find equipment that would take us up to like top of Bear Camp when we have people stuck in the snow. And for the last, since I've been sheriff, been waiting for that perfect timing to order a snowcat. I asked for some to be volunteered to come over, but didn't work, so I called Tucker Snowcat. I've been in contact with him for about several years about what we were looking for if we ever needed to rise. Just so you know, on federal forest land, if we have a active search, we can order equipment that we need and get reimbursed through Title III funds for whatever we need. So I ordered a snowcat. They didn't have one available, but they had a demo. They brought it over, and they were almost here by the time we actually found the other 2 and got them out. But we ended up taking that up in the snow, and it's amazing what that equipment will do. I made a press release on that, and I had nothing but support from everybody that responded. Numerous posts saying you guys need the proper equipment to make rescues. They said if in a perfect situation, you get people who were not prepared and didn't know what they're doing, they would have lost their lives in that event. So I did order the snowcat. It's going to be $194,000 with a trailer, and that'll be paid through by Title III funds.
Mr. Pash. And I'll let the budget committee know that I was down when that snowcat came here. Sheriff invited me to go down and look at it. Kind of an amazing machine. Another good part about this snowcat that I noticed was the safety for the handlers of the cat. It's got a closed compartment. There's actually buckboard mounting in the back of it for, you know, if you had to have somebody on a stretcher kind of a thing. But it had closed compartment. If you had somebody way up in the high country in a storm, they would be safe and warm. And so I just loved it. It was great. I've been in cats in ski areas and that when I was skiing, so I know a little bit about them, but this thing was really cool, and I think it'll be a great addition to the Sheriff's Department.
We've had quite a few people that have perished on Bear Camp Road, and they got stuck in the snow up there. A lot of them were on our side of the road, but we couldn't make it up there. We had a couple old snowmobiles that were touring models that you get into a rut, you're going to tip over, and they weren't. We ended up have to call that up from their side of the road over into our area just to help us out. So there is not another snowcat on the Oregon coast other than I think Humboldt County, which is quite a ways away. Not only that we are going to be able to save lives in our own county, but we can offer our assistance to Delnor County and Coos County, or wherever we need to go. We can offer our assistance. And like I say, it is an amazing machine. We've got 5 people inside there, nice and toasty and warm. I drove it for a while, got up into some area where I thought, are we going to be able to make it? Logs across the road, backed up, put the plow down, pushed snow up against the log, made a ramp, and drove right over it, and kept going. So that kind of equipment will end up saving lives, and it will make it much more easier for our deputies, our first responders, our SAR members to make it or affect a safer rescue. The little side-by-side that they were in, there's 4 people in it, and by the time they got the other 2 out that they first came on, they were frozen, cold, wet, and so anyway, I see on the agenda here, we down at the bottom there's talk about Title III funds, and I can go over a little bit about that. Again, I wanted to let you know that we have the authority and the authorization when we're on an active search in federal forest lands to make purchases for life-saving equipment. If you recall back when we had the Higgins search on top of the bear camp, but we never did find him, we were able to get some things that we really needed to help, in future searches. Tents and heaters and radios and radio repeaters, and so this is going to be a wonderful thing for Curry County, and I got full support from our citizens to do this. We're talking about Title III funds. There's 3 different pots of Title III funds that we can look at. Brad, I don't know if you passed that information out there. They got it on page. My pages are 136 to 138.
Yep.
The one that we're looking at where this has come out with no problems is on page 138. We have $625,000 in total contingencies and operating contingencies that we can use for this. So it's basically a drop in the bucket to get us a piece of equipment that we can put on the Oregon coast to help our searches. And that was the only unanticipated. What's that?
The only unanticipated anything. Everything else we're scheduled to be right on, or maybe a little under budget throughout the rest of the sheriff's funds.
Commissioner Boyce.
Do you have a place to store it? I know you do.
Well, we will find one. I'm pretty sure that we can talk to Rich at the shops out there. They have all those overhang buildings. They have a lot of equipment, but I'm sure if I talk to them and explain that they will be able to use that machine to get to the towers for their maintenance when the snow, because otherwise sometimes they have to take a cat, a D8 cat, and load it up and get right to it. And so with the availability to use it for those type of things, we should be able to store it out there no problem.
Good. So you the designated driver?
And no. It drives like a Cadillac. It's got 4 tracks on it, and they all move independently this way and that way, and that's why it can go anywhere up there. We took some photos, and SAR members were just so excited when they were up there on the snow with this. Had about 4 or 5 of them able to drive it, and I'm gonna have 3 designated drivers, all volunteer SAR members. And I can tell you the names like Ryan McGinnis, Dennis Hoffman, and Steve DeChico from the Forest Service. Those guys are top notch, and this thing is so easy to drive anyway. But they'll be designated drivers. I wanted at least 3 when somebody's not available that the other one can jump on. So, and John Rasher, you know John Rasher very well, and he is a snowcat operator over in Jackson County, and he has nothing but good to say about these machines. So,
yeah, he's either in the snowcat or the helicopter, searching for people.
Yeah, he's been out in snowcats. Him and Graham both doing wonderful jobs on in fact, they did find there 8 people that were missing with the snowcats. So,
Mr. Pesh?
No, that's fine. I'm good, thanks.
Just the Title III money, this is, sometimes that's a struggle to find really valid projects. And this is really good news for the county. Thank you.
So as far as anything else that we're listed on here, if you have any other questions, if I can't answer them, I know I got 3 of my top guys back here can give you an update on anything you need to know about.
I have one question.
Go ahead, bro.
So on the Marine Patrol Fund, it looks like there's a state grant for boating safety. It was budgeted $169,000. We haven't received any of that in. Is that expected to come in later this year, or what's the status on that?
Well, we should have listed on there for the Marine Patrol. We make quarterly reports, and it's a reimbursement to get that in.
Okay.
the $169,000 we will get, but it'll be by the end of the year. We'll get it quarterly we make quarterly reports to them, and I'm pretty sure the first quarter should be in.
Okay.
There wasn't, I wouldn't say it was unintentional and whatever, but we did buy a brand new boat this year. It didn't cost the county any money because we paid for it and then got reimbursed by the Marine Division, Oregon State Marine Board for the whole lot of it. So, and we were get a nice boat from Bob White over in Medford. So, yeah, I mean, it's the boat we had and we traded it off. It was a 2002 North River that had been totaled at one point. We weren't aware of it. It never did have, I mean, we always had problems with it, overheating and things like that. And the other boat we have, the county owns that. And now this, the new boat, the River Wild from, you know Bob White, right?
Builds a great boat.
Yeah, and did a wonderful job. You know, it cost $70,000, but it didn't cost the county anything. So,
give us the dimensions. Do you mind?
It's a 21.9, 22-foot boat, and 8 foot across the top. We had a hardtop frame built on it instead of the poles, and it's nice and solid with a canvas top on top of that. And it's got a 6.4 Raptor motor in it with a 213 Hamilton pump, which is a hydraulic pump. The old 212s are indestructible, basically, but
lifetime boat.
Getting it set up with everything it needed, and everybody was calling it my boat. And they're afraid to drive it. And I told Walter, I said, you go out and you break it in, get the hours on it. So we're very fortunate to have that. We've done really well, you know, with our community partners and our state partners on getting things that we actually need here. So pretty pleased about our relationships.
Good.
Cool. Any other questions of the sheriff? All right.
You have anything you'd like to mention there, Captain, Lieutenants?
No, I think the sheriff said it. Unless there's some unforeseen emergency, I mean, of course, you guys all know that with the jail and medical. Sorry.
I have to keep an eye on Joel.
Yeah.
You know, what he spends for the jail. But I tell you what, he's done a phenomenal job as my jail commander, and I couldn't be more proud of what he does for us. And Lieutenant Denny is a parole and probation director. I don't have to worry about nothing when it comes to parole and probation because he deals with the whole thing. He tells me what's going on, what I need to know, apparently. So, but yeah, he does a fabulous job, and I'm very proud of my admin. Captain, I couldn't say much good about better.
Can't say much good about me. That's okay.
We need to edit that part out.
No, the only thing I was going to add is, you know, currently we're well within our budget. We plan on staying there. You know, unless there's some unforeseen emergency that we can't predict. The one thing I always like to try and remind everyone is to keep in the back of your mind that we do run a jail, and we're responsible for all the medical in the jail, and that seems to be the one area that if there's going to be, knock on wood, if there's going to be a problem, that's sometimes where they do arise. And that's really our biggest unforeseen in the sheriff's office, really one of our biggest unforeseen liabilities that we may have. Right now, though, we're scheduled to be across all of the funds through the sheriff's office, parole and probation, jail, patrol, dispatch. We're on budget and on schedule to be within our budgets, or maybe even slightly under, you know, if everything goes as we plan. So,
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd just like to make one more comment.
He doesn't have anything good to say about me.
Yeah. Nothing but good to say about it. So I was under the impression we were going to talk a little bit about future needs and everything. And just to give you just put it in the back of your minds, you know, we have, I think, 12 positions for patrol. 2 of them are detectives. We still not able to go to 24/7, but if I had 4 more deputies, I could use 24/7. 6 for sure, but you know, 4 more deputies that we could go 24/7 and make it safe for all my deputies that are out there instead of just having them out there by themselves. Right now, with 10 positions, at our action on patrol, I either got somebody that's off on injuries or in the academy. I really haven't had 12 full positions out there working, but if I had, you know, at least have the opportunity to make 4 more deputies, I don't want to be too greedy. I would take 2 if I could get them, but you know, we build up a little bit at a time instead of going backwards. You know, for the welfare and the safety of our citizens, I think it's imperative that we think about adding those positions.
That's something we'll talk about during budgeting season.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Bring it up again.
Commissioner Herzog.
What can you demand, or what can you supply to the county right now as far as hours?
For hours, we have people that come on at 7 a.m. and then go home at 2 a.m. So we got 2 to 7 that we don't have no coverage.
Okay.
And
all right,
the ones on day shift, well, I only got really two deputies on day shift, but they're covered also by myself, the captain, and Joel out there, because Joel's still dual certified. He can run out and handle calls, and does quite often as far as accidents close by and things like that. Swing shift, you know, we try to cover at least 3 on each shift, north, central, south, and they can bounce back and forth to help each other out. Well, 7 days a week. But if I had some more deputies, I can extend those hours out.
Okay. Thanks, Sheriff. So this budget commission has done a really good job with a proactive mindset towards law enforcement here, and there's been quite a bit of progress that's been made with the sheriff's department. But just think about what the sheriff said for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody working, there's nobody being proactive, there's nobody immediately available to that 911 call at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And think about that in this current climate, in this current time that we live in. You know, I mean, to me, you know, having been a law enforcement professional for over 35 years now, that's just unheard of in the time that we live in here. And you know, I just think about, you know, someone being afraid and making that 911 call at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and nobody's coming, you know, and the people in this county deserve the best. And this sheriff's done a really good job in being innovative and being creative, and you know, acquiring the equipment he needs and the resources that he needs, and Captain has done an incredible job spending his money very wisely. But we can continue to make progress. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that.
I got 3 minutes left here on my time. So, I did want to say he did remind me a couple things. This last year, you guys, with your support, we put that a hell of a K-9 team together, and Brad's been my K-9 reserve coordinator and trainer, and we have 3 K-9s, 2 of which are dual certified in bite work and narcotics, and the third one is dual certified in search and rescue, FEMA certified in search and rescue and narcotics. We've done a hell of a job with that division. Problem is, we're facing the problem of being defunded by government, and they recently voted in something like the House Bill 110, where it makes drugs really legal, unless they're over a user amounts. And I don't think that the people who voted for that really understood what they were voting for, because the ballot measure never said we're going to make methamphetamine and heroin legal, basically. Right now, we find some methamphetamine or heroin on somebody, it's an E violation. They had to come up with we always had A, B, C, and D violations. They had to come up with a fifth one just to say it's going to be a $100 fine. You can get a traffic ticket or a seatbelt ticket that costs more money than having on drugs on you, illegal drugs. So that's going to be a chore for us on our canines dealing with the narcotics end of it. Because, canines will detect odor, but they won't detect the amount of odor. So that in itself is a huge problem for us. So we're trying to figure that out. We're going to try to do the best we can with what we have, but I had to let you know that I'm very pleased of our canine and the support that you guys put into that to help us get that program. And I have 2 detectives that are on top of things as far as narcotics and major cases like sex abuses, and trained up for homicide investigations, things like that. So we have done really well in promote our sheriff's office and provide adequate protection for our citizens.
And two additional things regarding that canine program. One is the third dog was funded through a grant that we got. Captain McDonald was able to secure that grant, and that funded our third dog, including all the associated equipment, car, all that stuff was taken care of. And I can tell you firsthand that both of those dogs have been used in a capacity in which deputies would have been using higher levels of force to apprehend people, but that dog got compliance and it wasn't needed. And they've made a difference in that capacity. The drug seizure that took place a few months ago, I think it was one of the largest in Curry County. I don't remember what the total quantity was.
Over 2 pounds of methamphetamine.
All of the dogs were used in that search, and that was a huge search area. It was very problematic because there was a lot of outbuildings and cars, and we needed them all for that. And when it comes to sales and manufacturing, those things are still a felony crime, and I'm confident they're going to continue to be enforced as such. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that.
Thank you for your time.
I just wanted to add on, the sheriff briefly mentioned 24-hour coverage. If we build and if we work towards this, one thing I want you guys to keep in the back of your mind is 24-hour coverage to do it safely and efficiently is not putting one guy out in a car by himself in Curry County at night. Yeah. We cannot do that. The county can't allow something in the middle of the night by himself hurt. Yeah. If we go to 24-hour coverage, we have to have minimum staffing levels to keep not only the citizens safe, but our employees and our deputies safe. Yeah. Like I said, there are some agencies that run one person at night. That's the graveyard shift, and we have 24-hour coverage because we have one person out there until that one person needs backup and there's no one to back them up. I just want you guys to keep that in the back of your mind. If we do this, if we work towards it, 1, it doesn't happen overnight, and 2, we don't just put one person out there and call that 24-hour coverage, because that just creates issues and problems in and of itself. So if we start working on this, we need to work on it in a proper, safe manner. So,
Commissioner Bliss.
Well, Captain McDonald, so the ideal number 6, good number 4.
In order for us to go to 24-hour coverage, if we had 6 additional deputies, then we could safely do that. Again, the last time we added deputies, you guys know, you guys added, I think, 3 positions for us, and it took us, we're just now to the point where all of our positions are full, but we have 1 person, we have 2 people out on safe claims right now, and we have 1 getting ready to go to the academy. So even though we have on paper all of our positions are full, we don't have everybody out working. That's workforce. That's part of doing business. But with 6 additional, and I'll get out of here and let you go on to the next one. With 6 additional, that would get us. We could get to 24-hour coverage. It would probably put 2 people working graveyard, but as long as both are there, we can make that work. So,
Mr. Chair, we can kind of flow with the time today. That was really good use of our time.
Absolutely.
Thank you again.
Absolutely. Any more questions for the Sheriff's Office? Anybody? All right.
You look like you got a question.
Well, I was just going to add that I got the privilege to ride with, what's John Inslee's position?
He's
Lieutenant Inslee. And he was sharing with me that, what Oregon State has done to themselves is absolutely reprehensible to me.
Yes.
That a young man or a young person getting involved with alcohol is going to be more in trouble than if he has 40 shots of LSD or heroin or meth. And it's just, so what we've done, this is where you go. Because I think he shared with me the only state in the union that has adopted this, and it's
well, we're basically a laughing stock.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oregon is.
No bueno.
Nation's laughing at Oregon for
Well,
legalizing drugs.
If you're a multiple offender, potentially a 3-strike candidate in California, and you've got a methamphetamine addiction problem, and you've been arrested multiple times for possession, even though it's a misdemeanor in California, and you continuously get, arrested, why would you stay there?
We're right here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, you got any pull you can get me a ride with Deputy Inslee?
All right, we'll move along now. To our
Jim
assessor.
Cohen, County Assessor. Sheriff cut 7 minutes into my time. But I'm not gonna make that time back up.
Yes, you can.
The assessor's office doesn't have any snowcats or boats, so none of you are going to be interested. Probably you're the only one that's going to be interested in what I have to say, Brad.
You better settle for 2.
I just wanted to say that the date that we're reporting on today is December 31st, right, Brad?
Correct.
And by December 31st, we had collected 87% of the taxes that were levied this year in Curry County. And by June 30th, we estimate that we'll be at a little over 96% on collections. In tax collections, you never get to that 100% figure. The first big reason is because if you pay your full tax bill by November the 15th, you get 3% discount. So that comes right off the top. There's also appeals and other adjustments that are made during the year. And then some of the rest of the properties can take 3 or 4 years to do the collections. Some you never collect on, you have to foreclose on them and collect it that way. I mentioned the 87% because that's significant with regard to some of the revenues that come into assessment and taxation. So the tax office is on pages, I think, 6 and 7.
Correct.
For both assessment and taxation, we budgeted in revenues a total of $17,750 in late filing penalties. So far, we're showing that we've collected 7,711. Actually, the actual amount of penalties that was levied was 18,200. You never know when you budget how much you're actually going to levy. And at a collection rate of 87%, we've actually collected 15,800, and it's just not been posted. That's pretty typical for this time of the year. Those things usually get squared away around July or August. And then the other revenue in the tax collectors fund is the CAFA grant. The CAFA grant tends to come in late. Being at about 25% this time of the year is about what we'd expect. I think that we don't get the last payment for the CAFA grant until July, maybe August usually. So I'm not real concerned about that number that I see there. On expenditures, lines 330-10, 330-12, and 341-00, these expenditure line items are all part of a contract for service with Jackson County to receive and post taxes for us. It's a much more economical way of doing things as opposed to hiring another employee, which would run more than $12,000 a year, obviously. Our total budget for those lines is $11,000. The total spent so far is about $9,300. By December 31st, I just don't think we'd gotten their final billing yet. I don't know. It probably won't come in at exactly $11,000, but it'll be close to that. Line 595, postage, you see a fairly large line item there that's not spent. That's because we mail our own second and third trimester payments. We actually contract for the first trimester, which is all 18,000 tax statements that go out. Second and third, there's usually only about 3,000 for each of those, so we do that work ourselves. So that will be spent before the end of the year, at least most of it will. Other than that, the tax budget is fairly normal. We're about where we would expect to be as of December 31st. I mean, except for COVID. We're not traveling due to COVID, so we're not having any expenditures in those line items. I'll probably use some of that money savings to help pay for the new assessment and tax system that you approved the last 2 years. In the assessor's office.
Hey, Jim, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Brett?
Go ahead.
Real quick before we, so that line item 330-12, where you said, so that's that contract with Jackson County or Josephine County, you said?
Yes.
So I just wondering why, if we kind of know what it's going to cost, why did we just budget $5,700? Does that make sense? See,
well, the total is $1,000.
Okay.
And
is this something new, so we didn't really know what the budget, or?
No.
Okay.
We budgeted correctly.
Okay.
What I'm saying is we probably by December 31st just hadn't gotten their final invoice yet.
Okay.
So we still owe them more for the service that they provided to us.
Okay. I'll talk to you later, because I don't know if I'm making my question correctly.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question either.
Well, the budget was $5,700.
And which line item are you on again?
330-12. And you mentioned it.
Yeah, I know.
On page 7.
Okay. So, good point. Thank you for making that.
All right.
Like I said, we budgeted between those three line items a total of $11,000, and it's likely that when we got their invoice, it all got posted to just that one line item.
Okay, I got
you. So they're not properly spread out yet. That's also not uncommon for this time of the year. We get it squared away as the year progresses.
All right. So it's those three.
Does that answer your question?
Yep, it's those three combined.
Right. So, I mean, you see there that out of 330-10, there's been no expenditure. It's very likely that, about $3,300 of that, $9,300, about $3,300 should have come out of that.
All right.
For that line item.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, moving on. In the assessor's office, again, the comments I made about late filing penalties and the CAFA grant pertain to the assessor's office as well. So line 334-20 is a revenue amount for grants for mapping services and equipment. We call it an ORMAP grant. We haven't found anything that they have available out there that we qualify for this year yet, so we don't have any grant applications in the pipeline. So it's likely that money won't be coming in, but we have a line item in expenditure, which is 348-00. It says professional services or MAP pilot. That's also $10,500. If we don't get any grants, we won't spend any of that money. Is a potential loan to pay for the new assessment and tax software system that the budget committees have approved in the last 2 years. I'm not really sure why in the first year that we budgeted for that, they put it down as a loan. I think probably they were short on money. I had thought that last year when we budgeted this, that we just budgeted a resource for it rather than a loan. But this is the way it came out. In any case, we are paying for part. It's a pay-as-you-go. As they have deliverables, you pay part of that amount. And we actually were able to get, I think, about $30,000 out of last year's budget before we closed the books on that. And we'll also get some more out of this year's budget without having to go to a loan. I don't think that we'll have to look for a loan for this year to get us to the end of the budget year. And so when I come to the budget committee here this spring, I would like to, rather than try and go for a loan, actually budget for the remainder that we expect. Lines 341.50 and 380 are revenues for processing fees and miscellaneous revenue. We had budgeted a total for those two line items of about $11,000. Again, they may have been posted to the wrong line item. But for those two line items right now, we're at a total revenue of $5,600, which is about 51% of the budget, which is about where we want to be, right at halfway through the year. So if we need to, we'll get that corrected as the year goes on. But I think we're good there. Under expenditures in the assessor's office, the rest of our expenditures are tracking about as expected. Line 438-00 is an amount where we generally pay the bulk of it in June. So, I mean, we still have a big balance there, but it will be spent. I think that was for maintenance and repair of the software, so yeah.
And that's your current software system, not the new one?
Well, we've started into the new software system, so we're paying maintenance based on the new software system.
Okay.
That's part of the contract. But we don't have to pay on both of the software systems. We're not paying on the old one anymore. We're paying on the new one.
Okay.
So, what are we doing with the money that you have allocated to us? And I've got a couple of things I'd like to tell you about there. Like I said before, tax collections are right on track at 87%. That's where we want to be this time of the year, and so that's looking good. Assessment is also going very well. Appraisal resource. It took us a while to get that person on and then get that person certified because we don't ever get experienced appraisers here in Curry County. We generally have to hire somebody and train them up, and that was the case for this one. So prior to that hire, we had been in, and you probably remember this, we had been working at a reappraisal cycle. That's the time it takes to get an appraisal done on every property in the county at a little over 18 years per cycle. Now, just in the last year with this new appraisal resource, we've already come down to a pace where we're at about just under 11 and a half years. And with the resources we have available by this time next year, I'm going to guess that's going to be under 10 years as we get that new resource trained up. And it's possible that with the same resource, we could get maybe to that 8-year level that was the effort. Say I won't come back for more appraisal resource in a year or two. At least ask you for it. And then a big part of the justification for adding that extra resource was, remember, I talked about all that unpermitted property that was out there. People are building and not taking a building permit. Sometimes some of the stuff we find is buildings that don't require a permit. You may remember me saying the last time. With this, well, our main tools for discovery of new construction are number one, the building permits. The people that are doing it right, they got the building permits. The next big one is maintenance reappraisal. And that's that 18, now down to a little less than 11 and a half year cycle. You know, a third distant discovery tool is either the owner or possibly a neighbor reporting that something's been built there that we're not aware of. This last year, the county had an amnesty program, which I think probably worked okay for the planning building departments, but it really only produced one property to the assessor's office that we hadn't already picked up. So it wasn't as useful for assessment and taxation, but maybe it was for planning. I haven't heard the results of where they got with that. Anyway, from 2012 through 2019, we picked up a total of $30.2 million in construction that nobody took permits out on, which averages about $3.8 million a year. In 2020, we've got the new appraisal resource. The amount that we found out there, because we're able to cover more territory, was just over $6 million. So we're on a better pace there. This year so far, from November 1st to date, actually it was January 28th, but I don't know that we've gotten much more. We've already picked up over 4.7 million in. So that, so thank you for the extra resource. It allows us to do our job better. Again, if you want to think about that extra 9 appraisers for the 24/7 appraisal coverage, you know, we probably need a bigger office, but we could certainly work with that. That's all I've got for you, unless you have questions.
I got a question. So there's got to be a metric that says if you hire another person and you train them up, I don't know how long it takes to become an assessor, you know, or for that person. So it sounds like they're more than pay for themselves, and it puts more cash back to the county. I don't know why. Am I thinking wrong there, Brad? Or it makes sense to me to say let's hire somebody else.
One of the issues there is because Curry County's property tax rate is so low. Really, we're the lowest property tax rate in the state of Oregon. Josephine County on paper has a lower permanent rate, but they're also levying for a new jail and whatnot, so they're actually levying more. But at 60 cents per thousand, all this new value isn't necessarily paying for the appraisal resource.
Okay.
It's a great benefit to all of the taxing districts, which is why a couple of years ago, and I reported to this committee, I had gone to the legislature to advocate for additional A&T funding for the state. We actually narrowed it down to where we had a Curry County pilot project that would have taken half of its funding from the state and half of its funding from the taxing districts in Curry County. That would have been to add another 1.5 FTEs in the assessor's office. We estimated it was going to cost $150,000, and that didn't make it through the legislature. And since it didn't last year, like I said, this committee granted us an extra resource. So, I mean, certainly if we had anything like the average tax rate for the state of Oregon, which is about $270,000 per thousand, then you could see, you know, this appraisal resource paying for itself.
Okay.
More than paying for itself.
Good answer.
I mean, as it is,
we know that's not going to happen.
Curry County levies about $1.9 million in property taxes. We do all of the assessments and levies for the property taxes, and our overall cost to the general fund for assessment taxation is I think in around the $700,000 range. So we bring in well over $1 million more than we actually spend to collect property taxes.
Any other questions for Mr. Cohen? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we got 4 till. Got our new treasurer here. He can probably get this done.
10 minutes back.
He can get this done in 4 minutes.
I went way over the 7 minutes.
I can. Hi, David Barnes. I'm your new county treasurer. I've been in the job for about 6 minutes now, and I don't really have much to report. From what I understand, we're on budget, and things are going fine. The one thing I do want to bring up to this committee now, and will at your next meeting also, is that we are in dire need of a deputy treasurer in this county. We are operationally right now, I am behind the 8 ball trying to learn as much as I can about an old system, which is being replaced by a new system, which I then have to do the implementation of. And there's, you know, I am on borrowed time with a trainer. So we need to have somebody else in this, somebody else who knows how to do this job besides just me. So that's really all I have to say.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Barnes?
Don't let him go just yet, Mr. Chair.
And that's it?
Hang on. Did you have something?
No, I hear what he's saying, but I think at this point we got to train you, and then you'll be the trainer. You know, if we could ever do a deputy treasurer.
Correct.
So I hear what you're saying, but I don't have a
nobody has an answer. You know, the treasurer asked a couple of years ago for a deputy. She was first denied by the administrator at the time, Clark Schroeder. It's been denied for the past 2 years when Ms. Schmelzer was the administrator or the director. And it's something that I'm just telling you, you know, in terms of controls and continuity of the office, there needs to be somebody else who can pick up this office. If it wasn't me who came in here, I don't know if any of the other candidates would be able to do this the way I am able to do it, and we'd be in real deep trouble right now. So, you know, yesterday there would have been nobody coming in to write the checks. So, you know, something has to happen with that. There needs to be a backup to this position. So it's just not, it's fiscally not prudent to only have one person who can do a job. So, and I understand it's going to cost some money, but we have to find it somewhere. So,
Could you maybe, were you next?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Boyce.
I think you called on me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you have an outline that you're looking at? I mean, I know you probably have, well, not probably, haven't had any time to really think about it, but just how that could be structured, you know, with the deputy and how it could work with the treasurer, and, you know, just maybe even start that job description. I don't know if we have it on file from years back, or what your thoughts might be on that.
like I said, I've been in this job for about 6 minutes now, and that's something that, you know, for right now, I am looking at making sure that I understand enough of the system so that I can convert it over to the new system without any hitches and without any problems. With our investment advisor, it's the first exposure I've had to what our investment policy and strategies are. I am not prepared to talk about that yet. You know, my primary goal right now is making sure that all of our bills that our money gets credited to the right account and our bills get paid on time.
Okay.
So, and once I'm comfortable with that, then we can talk about other things. We can talk about a job description. We can talk about our investment strategy. But for right now, this is my sole and primary focus.
And we do have a job description for the deputy treasurer on file, so I don't know that there's a whole lot of tweaking or anything that needs to go on there. As far as the deputy treasurer does go, we can talk more about that during budgeting season and as we're going through all of that. So, but I think as what you said at the beginning, that your budgets are on track, and we can see the budgets here, and they are tracking correctly, and it does all look good.
Mr. Barnes, you need some more time.
Yeah,
Don't we all?
Yeah, exactly. I need an extra 2 set of eyes and an extra couple of hands and a few more keyboards to play on. So,
yeah.
But you know, I'm giving it a shot. You know, I'm doing what I can on it. I'm determined I'm gonna succeed at it. So, you know, I have the skills. It's just a matter of learning the processes as they apply to the county.
Mr. Boyce.
Would it help if you just had the original accounting system, didn't have to do the transition as well?
It would be helpful, but it's, you know, from what, I don't know enough about the new system yet, you know, but anytime you convert from one system to another, it takes a long time. There's a lot of steps to it. It's not like going to the food store and buying whole milk instead of buying 2% milk. You know, there's a lot involved with this. And, you know, the list of things that I received last night of what the Summer Sears is assisting with this process, and the list of things that I received last night is just, there's still a lot of work to do with this, you know. And like I said, I'm still trying to make sure that every day that all the transactions get put into the right accounts, money gets paid the right way, there's enough money for payroll, things like that. You know, next week is my first time with the tax distribution to the special districts. So, you know, I'm just right now I just want to make sure that all this goes off without a hitch, and then I start worrying about converting it over to the new stuff, to the new system. So, you know, I don't know enough about the new system yet. I wasn't involved in the trainings that happened. I had offered back last year, but that didn't happen. So, you know, I'm playing catch up here. And, you know, the time between the time Mr. Hanscom said he wasn't going to do the job and the time I got the job is just all lost time.
Yeah.
That was very valuable, and that, you know, is very detrimental to me. So, but I'll get through it.
Mr. Herzog.
Just want to say thank you, and on my dime next week, I'll take you out to lunch.
Thank you very much.
You pick the time.
I don't know if I can accept it. I think I would have to spend under $25, and if you're taking me out to lunch, we're getting lobster, bud.
That's fine. That's fine.
The magic number is 50.
Okay. All right. Cool.
And he can afford it. No.
You pick the day. You just let me know, and yeah. So I know you're under the gun. I thought my job was hard, but I don't think it's not nearly.
Okay.
And there's a couch in my office if you need to take a break. So.
I walk. I go out and I stroll around.
There you go.
If I have to. So, but you know, I don't even have Let me let you guys take your break, and I'm going to get back to work if that's all.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Brad.
All right.
See you all
Thanks.
We'll recess till 10:15.
Okay. Don't forget to take your...
There's something about having land and sea. Never having to choose between digging in or looking out. Here, you can go where the spirit or the wind moves you. To the tops of the trees, along secluded beaches, or into more wild and scenic rivers than anywhere else in the western United States. We're the closest place to the sunset, while still keeping your feet dry, and a destination where anyone can begin. We share more than we keep, so you can see more than you imagined. This is a place you have to touch, hold, and feel to believe. The entire shoreline of the West Coast's best coast is open to you, and playgrounds made of forests are waiting for you. Escape to Curry County, and don't leave anything out.
If yours is the next big idea, and you need the right place to fine-tune it, build it, launch it, if you're only your best when you can play more than you work, if inspiration comes from the outside, you belong in Curry County. The westernmost point of the land you love, and the edge between familiar and uncharted. Break the pattern. Be where the airports are as close as the beaches, and industry and recreation never cease to amaze. Dock, dive, and dine in a single day, and never lose your the West. Live where you can do you, and do it well, at the farthest point from ordinary. Curry County, living on the edge.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Wildfire, as everyone knows, has emerged as one of the big major issues affecting Oregon and, for that matter, all western states. A real actionable response that's including how do we fight fire, actively managing our forests so that we don't have the fuels out there, and how are we going to protect communities from smoke exposures. The council is really set up to have a comprehensive strategy that's based on action and based on protecting our communities.
The primary focus we as a board have come through with is that in researching the policies for fire management, yes, prescribed fire has its place on the landscape, but not during fire season. We, as a county, passed a proclamation that says once the state fire marshal declares fire season, it'll be nothing but full suppression, and recently took a resolution to the National Association of Counties, essentially says that they support coordination between agencies and local governments for the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens regarding fire, prescribed fire, fire season, anything that affects our citizens.
This is Lily Morgan from Josephine County, and we are at the Rogue Leadership Forum today, looking at the best possible partnerships that we can come up with to fight the fire issues and the smoke issues that we're facing in Southwest Oregon. So looking forward to coming up with solutions and the partnerships to get the job done so we don't face what we have the last few years with catastrophic fires and smoke that invades our communities for months to come. So
so many people come together has really been exciting for me because there's a lot of expertise, there's a lot of resources, and as we attempt to do a shared stewardship approach to keeping people safe, it's really important that we get together. So my name is Merv George Jr., and I'm the Forest Supervisor for the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest. One of the first things is making sure to get fires out if they're threatening life and property. The second thing that I'm going to focus in on is when it's safe to do so, to put some fire on the landscape when it's cooler and not during fire season, to reduce these same fuels that are giving us so much fits during the fire season.
Bob Horton, I'm the Fire Chief of Jackson County Fire District 3 in Southern Oregon. The challenges that are facing us in terms of the mega fires and the wildfires that we've been experiencing out in this valley, particularly in the last couple of years, but across the state and across the region, incredibly concerning to us in the fire community, those in our communities in general, our constituents and our patrons are extremely concerned as they ought to be. And really the takeaway from the work that's being done now is this is an extraordinary collaboration of dozens on dozens of interested stakeholder groups who are coming together with a common purpose. It's really an inspiring showing of humanity to not only be able to provide for a greater quality of life for our people, but to be strong stewards of our land so that our future for us and generations to come is incredibly bright.
Very pressing issue. It's bearing down on us. Fire season is approaching, and I am really interested in preventing my home and other homes in my community from being impacted by wildfire, specifically from being burnt down. That's my main reason for being involved.
Quite a collaboration of folks. We're here looking for practical solutions to help us unravel some of the issues surrounding wildfires today here in the state of Oregon. And my focus really is on planning for large wildfire events in advance of their occurrence. That way, when they do occur, we can respond more appropriately to those situations.
Well, I just think it's grand if all of the people all over the state have come together today to be concerned about water. It just warms my heart because I know that they really will leave here today feeling more impressed about the water because I have told them that we're all born in water. We cannot live without it. It's our job to take care of it, stop the garbage in the rivers and streams and oceans. We cannot live on this planet without the animal kingdom. I was in Ohio at the Ohio River with Dr. Emoto, the Japanese scientist who had proven water could heal. He and I stood on the riverbank west of the Ohio River that they had us come to do. And I pray that God has still kept the river good for them over there. We were taught when we were little that prayer works. You too remember your prayers because they work. It has nothing to do with religion or church.
Why do counties matter? Simple. Counties provide the services we all depend on. if you're concerned about crime. Get a regular flu shot. Drive to work. Take public transportation. Or experience a natural disaster in your community. Chances are you benefit from county services. That's why counties matter. With America's system of federalism, counties...
Are we up?
Yep.
Are we on? All right, we'll continue with our Curry County Budget Commission meeting. And next... Ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
All right, good morning, everybody. Josh Spansell, Curry County DA. In going through my budget, it's fairly simple, at least to my eye. Let me know if you don't think so. The main budget, district attorney's budget, we're well within our budget. We are actually pretty low. Main reason for that is we are still down one deputy DA, and so that salary, there's still a lot budgeted that is not being paid. We are going to be looking to fill that. Currently, my salaries and benefits and all that is paid by the state. It's not paid by the county. I have a senior deputy DA who his salary, benefits, and everything is paid by the DSART grant, which I'll get into later. And so I have one new deputy, Cody Hawkins, who his salary is paid by the county. That's the only employee or DA employee that is paid by the salary, and then my other staff, which we're full with, which I'm very happy about. With all the other staff, we're just down one deputy DA. So everything, we're well within. With COVID, we didn't do any of the trainings we normally do. There's one child abuse summit that's in Portland every year that we send at least one deputy DA to, if not multiple. That didn't happen last year. It's probably not going to happen this year. It's always held in April, so I doubt that that's going to happen this year. Other trainings, summer conference, DA conference, the whole office usually goes to that. That didn't happen. That's in August. That may or may not happen this year. So we haven't used any of our mileage, haven't used really much of our training budget at all. So that has obviously saved us some money. Hopefully, in the future, things will get back to normal and we'll be using that again, because those are, especially a child abuse summit, that's valuable training that it's every year in Portland, and people from across the country come to that. It's a week long. So that one's very important, at least for our domestic violence, sexual abuse prosecutor. So, there's other trainings that I'll send a deputy DA to, like DUI trainings and domestic violence trainings that happen in Salem every once in a while. But other than that, nothing really different happening with our budget. It's, in the coming cycle, I'm going to look at my budget and I'll probably move some money around, maybe take some away from some line items and put some more in other line items, because there's some that are getting close, and then there's some that aren't even close to being at budget right now. So I'm going to look at that before the next budget cycle, but it's not going to be anything big. I don't anticipate asking for anything more money-wise than we have now for the upcoming budget. The law library, everything's on track there. We have some subscriptions to books and periodicals that we have. It's kind of a yearly thing, so that budget is pretty easy to figure out what it's going to be. I'm also going to be looking at some of those subscriptions to see if we really need those or not, and see if we can maybe get some other ones that are more topical that people will actually use. For the grants, the Victim Assistance Grant, the CFA grant, I was told by the Finance Committee that the Finance, Cena Crook, if you look at these, you have to combine both of these grants to get the real number. which is on the third line. That's the real number. Both of these are well under budget. And there's a new grant cycle for these that's going to start, it's either September or October of this year. So we're only at 22% of this one, 47% of this one, and it's pretty under budget, and a lot of that is training again as well for victim assistance. We haven't been using those dollars. The DSART grant, this is with a partnership with the Oasis Shelter Home. They applied for this grant, and part of the grant was to pay for a deputy DA, which in my office is Kevin Kelly. He has, I think, 13, 14 years experience as a prosecutor now. He focuses on domestic violence and sexual assault cases, which are obviously major cases. Some of the most major crimes we get in Curry County are sexual assault cases. And so he's very good, and this grant pays his salary. And it also pays for a part-time domestic violence and sexual assault investigator, Ron Lindley. And so they're both able to focus on domestic violence and sexual assault. And so that's very good. And this grant, the DSART grant, was renewed in November of 2020. So we have another 3 years of that. So that's good. Other than that, I don't think I have much. Like I said, I don't expect to be asking for anything more in the coming budget cycle. I think, in my time, which has been short, and in Mr. Dial's time before me, I think we stayed in budget pretty much every time. We never went over, so I don't expect that to happen. My office manager, Stacy DeLong, she's very diligent in making sure that we stick with the budget. So,
Josh, I have a question. With the recent proposition that passed regarding narcotics possession,
yes.
Could there be any financial impacts to your office from that?
Off the top of my head, I think that's a fairly low dollar amount. Our office doesn't get a lot of money from criminal fines or anything like that. We saw a big drop off in cases when simple possession was reduced to a misdemeanor. So now that it's a violation, we're going to see another significant drop off. Hopefully we can focus more on the delivery and things like that, the felony crimes. But I can say a lot about Measure 110.
Right.
As it comes to the budget, I don't see any ramifications.
Yeah, and I don't know how we don't expect property crimes to increase and violent crimes to increase from that. So that prosecution burden may increase somewhat.
No,
but it's hard to tell. It's early.
It is, and I think in the next couple of years we're going to see what the numbers are. And yeah, I think you're 100% right. We're going to see a rise in property crimes, definitely, and violent crimes.
Yeah, I think the passing of that measure will impact this county's law enforcement in many ways, financially in many ways.
And like you said earlier, I mean, we're a border county, and this is the only state that has legalized street drugs. Why wouldn't you come here?
Yep.
So, yeah, obviously, I think it's going to be very bad, but the time will tell.
Yep. Commissioner Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Office space, just now that, the movie made the year
Yeah.
ago, everything okay, plenty of space? And
Yeah, I think so.
Roofs?
No, we have one of our light fixtures. The top comes off of it every once in a while, but that's the only complaint at this time. We did get more space. We took over the juvenile department, and they moved to our spot. It was nice when we were in the old spot because everybody was in the same space, and so you interact a lot more. Now I'm across the hall, so I have to pop into the office to see what's going on. But that's really the only issue. We have more space now. We have a nice area for our witnesses during trials, or a meeting space for us. So that's nice to have. Before, they were just Any other questions?
Thanks for your hard work.
All right. Thank you. Thank you guys for your hard work. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Ms. Lang.
Thanks, guys.
Hello.
Howdy. Good day.
Want me just to jump in?
Giddy up.
Okay. I'll start with revenue. I'm Wendy Lang with the Juvenile Department. Not a lot of changes. COVID has affected us in revenue with state parks. We had $2,500 in there where our crews go out and do community service. Due to COVID, that has been shut down, so we lost that revenue.
Yep.
The next one down, other community service, there's about $1,700 left in there, and unfortunately, we have recently lost our contract with Curry Community Health. Curry Community Health was a huge sponsor in the Juvenile Department to the tune of about $15,000 a year. And not only will we no longer be doing community service for their properties, the cash grant of $12,000 will no longer be received either. We get down to ODOT. There's some good news that happened in ODOT. Waylon Summers, who runs our community service program, we have a contract with ODOT. It was $5,000 this year where we go do sidewalks, we take our kids out, we provide all the everything we need, and we did such a good job. They came to us this year and said, there's some money to do litter patrol where the kids actually get paid to do litter patrol. So we grabbed that. They gave us a grant of $15,000. We hired 4 youth, and they worked for about 4 weeks. It was kind of a last minute throw together, see if we can clean the roads, hire some kids. Went so well, they threw another $6,000 at us and said, to the end of the year, can you just try to keep up with it? We did that. So we ended up bringing in about $21,000 for ODOT contract, and did so well that they're talking about maybe giving us the entire thing next year, which would be it would bring money into our department, but it would also mean that we would employ probably about 6 kids at this point for about 8 weeks during the summer. So it'd be a good program. Our state money this year, it's not going to be touched, and it's basically figured out. Every county in the state gets juvenile justice money, and it's figured out on your population. So it's pretty set, and we've confirmed that through the end of this year. The next line item would be grant other. Working with finance to get everything updated on our grants. But when we saw COVID happening and not sure where we were going to get funds, and it's affected our youth tremendously, not being able to be social. So we had reached out to CCH, and we got a $12,000 grant from them, which was direct drug and alcohol services. We do education, we do UAs. We went to All Care. We needed laptops, and we needed more UA kits. We needed more testing. They gave us $3,000. Reached out to Curry Health Foundation. We don't have sex offender treatment in Curry County, which means any of our kids that need sex offender treatment have to go to Josephine or Coos. Very expensive, and insurance does not cover it. So Curry Health Foundation gave us $18,000 for treatment. We've already used that up. And Advanced Health stepped in and gave us $2,400 for evaluation. One sex offender evaluation is $2,400 or is $1,200 before any services hit. So that was the grants that we brought in this year. I'm hoping that at least 3 of those, they're the smaller grants, but I'm hoping we can reach out next year as soon as they're all spent and reapply for those. We will have utilized all of them and can show the need, probably more so after effects of all this next year. And then the only thing down there, I think everything's right on track. Public health is the last line item in our revenue, and it's just a matter of those dollars being transferred. Our department's doing part of the work for public health where we do the drug and alcohol and tobacco prevention. So that's just a matter of that being transferred. So with our ODOT, even though we've lost some community service programs, we'll have an additional $37,000 in. See any big changes? Let's see, expenditures. In our irregular salaries, you'll see we're over about $7,400, and that was those youth that worked the summer program. That was to pay their salaries. The only other thing that's over, I think, in salaries is that health reimbursement, and I did check with finance, and that's a union negotiation for some extra health care or something like that. Juvenile boarding, we budgeted $23,000, and you'll see there's still a large chunk of that. Based on COVID, we renegotiated our contract a little bit, dropped it down to $10,000. In the juvenile world, we're really not trying to lock kids up anymore. We're really trying to do community service, maybe electronic monitor, daily check-ins, more UAs, more services. So every year we try to bring that contract down. If it stays like this year, we'll probably have some extra funds left in there to be able to roll over or use on other things. Office supplies, we've just about used all our office supplies. Running the Brookings office, Gold Beach office. In order to get everything up to date, we've had to do lots of cleaning supplies, different desk space, that kind of stuff, but we should be fine. There's a couple things that are over, but again, we're working with finance to put them in different departments with the last minute change in community service work and litter patrol. It gave us added expenses, so it's just a matter of getting everything in the right category. With the savings in boarding, we are looking at purchasing LiveScan. Fingerprints now, the state of Oregon is requiring that everything be done LiveScan, and we are still rolling ink in our department. We can't take our youth over to where adults are being held, so it all has to be done in our department. And they've given us a warning for probably the last 5 years that says you really need to go LiveScan, and it's about $5,000 to $6,000. But I'm thinking with the savings in juvenile boarding that is something we'll be able to do this year. And then the biggest deal was our supplemental budget. Due to COVID last year, we had ordered a Durango in like June, and then it shut down, and they weren't even building Durangos anymore. And then it was going to be August, and then I had to have it by September to be in the budget. And I think we had set aside almost $42,000 that we saved out of last year's budget to buy the Durango. Long story short, we got it in December. It's here, but it has no plates on it, so we can't drive it. So that might be March. I don't know. We're working with DMV every day to try to figure it out. But it was only $28,000, and that's with half a cage. The other half of the cage is coming. But I submitted all the information to be a supplemental because it was not in this budget, but we did have the $42,000 out of last year's budget that went back into the general fund, and that's what the supplemental budget would be asking. Just 28 of that would go towards the new Durango. But other than that, there's not a lot of changes. We'll be fine this year. We'll be fine. Like I said, the work that the community service crew has done and picking up a couple extra contracts and the grants, they can't get UA'd at treatment. They can't even see somebody in person at treatment, so we're having to be pretty creative. With our Brookings office, the POs are working out of their cars, still providing services, but budget-wise, I don't see an issue. We should be coming in under budget and actually being able to do a couple things that we really need to do.
Wendy, the number of kids under your umbrella, has COVID changed that?
Absolutely, our numbers have drastically reduced. Okay. And that's what we're seeing around the state. The directors we meet virtually once a month, and everybody is seeing the same thing. I think we went the first 5 months with one referral.
Really?
Well, school is the big,
Right.
School is the big deal, and so we're all kind of preparing. I think when school's back open, like fully open, I think we're going to be flooded with referrals. And it wasn't just, drugs in school or violence in school. That's where teachers would recognize there was something going on, or somebody would report stuff.
Yeah.
So we've seen a huge decline in that. Where it kind of weighs out for us is we at first thought, oh, well, this will be a break. We can do some extra training. Our caseload isn't so big, but the kids we have now, they're in crisis. I mean, we're getting calls from parents whose kids probably would have never seen the juvenile system, and they're the kids who are in 3 sports a year, straight A students, and their world just got ripped apart because now they're not going to be a wrestling champ, and there's no scholarship, and they're sitting home in front of a computer all day, and it's just, it's devastating, the kind of we're we've probably had more kids. We're doing a Transport Thursday, which puts 3 Curry County kids in residential treatment right now, and that's usually not, we usually have 1 Curry, maybe 2 a year, but right now we have 3 Curry kids who will be in residential treatment.
Where's that, Wendy?
We have one, there's one in Roseburg and there's one in Prineville, and those are drug and alcohol treatment, and those we'll use up that bed. We're going to Prineville on Thursday, and then we have another mental health facility from Douglas County Juvenile Department. DHS is actually paying for it, but it's one of our youth. So, so like I said, and Josh kind of talked on the 110, it included juveniles.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't even know that part of it.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does.
So, we can't get them into treatment right now. There's 2 places we can use, and you're usually like a 2-week to a 2-month wait. I mean, if anybody thinks that a juvenile's going to call an 800 number, and that it's worse right now. I mean, if you get an MIP, you have a $260 fine, and you lose your driving privileges. But if you have methamphetamine, you call it an 800 number.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. So, but there's a team on the juvenile world that is trying to work and figure out how all that will happen, because we want to take a positive approach. Can't change what happened, but we want to take care of our Curry kids. Well, all the states are saying the same thing. Let's still get them into the juvenile system. Let's still try to get them help. Let's still process, even though it's a violation, and see what we can do. Because we're seeing positive UAs that we haven't seen before. Pills, cough syrup. They're just struggling. They're really struggling, but a lot of good community partners that have given us some money and that kind of thing. So we'll hopefully by the first of the fiscal year, things are different, because we'll pretty much have used all our resources by then.
Yeah, and I imagine there's been a lot of other things going unreported too, with our schools being closed, and when they open, probably be inundated with that.
Well, and you just nailed it. We'll go out just on a prevention case, and by the time we're done, we got, parents are having issues, and there's not this, and there's not school was, for a lot of our kids, home is sometimes where, the things go down. The things go down, and that's where the struggles happen. So school is where they get away. It's where they get a warm meal. They can talk to friends. They can talk to other people. They can talk about their problems. They don't have to worry about the trauma that's going on at home. So, I think we're going to feel the effect for a while.
Yeah, school's a lot more than just education, that's for sure.
Yeah, and for youth, we had a meeting this morning for our youth not to do face-to-face counseling and drug and alcohol treatment. It's not, it's, it's a whole different avenue. So we are working on that right now. We're going to put our kids in a place, and then the provider can come online, but we'll have our kids in a confidential setting where we can give them support. We're doing boys and girls groups right now, just trying to do a little bit of normalcy, but.
Thank you.
But that's kind of it.
Commissioner Boyce.
One quick question. The legislature is in session, and you mentioned juvenile justice, that the funds that come from that program good for 2021. reasonably confident
good
you
through
are.
the end of June of 2021.
Okay,
We've already been told there will most likely be cuts the next biennium.
Oh, that's why I asked.
Yep, we've already been told. Again, it goes by, population, but we get, it's a person and a half is basically, we use all ours for personnel. So we are looking at a small, so with that, the loss of CCH, we'll be pretty creative. We'll be pretty creative next year and see what we can do. We have some things rolling. We've had, you hooked us up with the Forest Service. So we're going to do a volunteer contract with the Forest Service. And if we can prove that we can get out and do some work with our kids, then they'll do a contract that's for hire. And, our crew makes $300 a day to go do work. So they're looking at us helping setting campgrounds back up, and which I'd rather have our kids out doing stuff like that where they're learning a trade, than picking up our litter and washing signs and stuff like that. So we're trying to be super creative about us bringing in resources. I think, that's one thing that community service can do is we can bring in some resources that will help offset the money we use. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. It's doing some stuff like that.
Then
And
you said
State Parks, same way. State Parks wants us to build a bridge, and then they're going to let the kids camp in the park, teach them that what outside's all about, and giving back and making it good. Plus, we're providing a service. So.
Yeah, a lot of people here believe that getting kids outside working with their hands is so therapeutic and improving the odds that they will catch on, and you really are making a difference there, a tremendous difference.
Thank you,
We
Wendy.
have a pretty good team. Thank you, Mike.
My question is just for the group, or it's just a comment, if I could be recognized. But my understanding with this new change in the law to decriminalize all this stuff, part of it was based on, a social policy, but I thought the other part was based on the expense of enforcing these laws. So if there's going to be a large savings at the state level for, the enforcement of these, what they consider low-level criminal laws, it seems like somebody should be communicating to the state legislature to reallocate those enforcement funds to groups like juvenile counties, et cetera. So I hope that's happening at the state level. So.
And like I said, there's a legislative group, and it's my understanding that this bill is so crazy that I don't even know. Nobody really knows where to start. That there are so many different angles on how. What treatment facility is going to pop up in 2 months? You're supposed to be able to call an 800 number and get into treatment. Ooh, where are they all coming from? And at one time, Oregon ranked like 3rd in the need for drug and alcohol, but we were number 47th in providing drug and alcohol services. So we can only hope that, that they realize that sooner rather than later. I think the hospitals are going to be flooded with issues from this also. I think they're going to be the first ones screaming of they're going to have them just lined up at their door.
Yeah.
No other resources,
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Director Lang.
All right, is Richard out there?
No, Tony Vowdy.
Tony.
You're up.
Morning, Board.
Morning.
Tony Vowdy from Veteran Services. So, I believe it's page 89. So my budget's pretty cut and dry for the most part. As I see it, you guys might have a different opinion, but I get lottery contributions from Measure 96. It's 1.5% of the net of the lottery. That's what the first item from ODVA is, the 85,000. That's where majority of my budget is generated. There was 23,000 carryover last year due to I was out and COVID hit at the same time, so we didn't spend as much, so it was carry forward. And then the county contribution was 71,000. When you go to my wages, everything is there with the over, and that's where those restricted funds, there are 23,000, are going to be going. I got to work with Cena on that. They're going to transfer those over because those were wages for the previous year for my assistant. I had one part-time. So that will go into that, and then we won't be over with it. The years following or moving forward, we're going to have to either get another grant or some more contributions from either ODVA or other services to see what we can do to keep her full-time, because she just went full-time, I think it was last month. I mean, everything else is pretty much cut and dry. All the expenses, aside from IGS, doesn't really change. You know, the only thing that will change this following year is I have a $12,000 replacement for a vehicle. That'll be paid off with Rich. So that'll be an additional 12 grand that'll be back in my budget. And that's basically it. For the most part, everything else stays the same. Might increase small dollars, but most of the services are pretty much within a $10 fluctuation for bills and stuff. Cell phones, everything. Any questions or concerns?
Well, I was just gonna say, Brad and I went down and met with Tony. I didn't know him, and he's doing a great job down there. Appreciate all the effort. The office, you know, inside is really good, and you're working on the outside.
Yes, sir.
And so, good job.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pash?
That was my question. How is the work down there going on the outside, and have the contractors found, you know, we're still looking at, is it more expensive to just tear the building down and rebuild?
Trying to retrieve some information from the contractor that came, I think it was about 4 months ago. I wasn't in the office, and Julie Schmelzer, our previous administrator, did an after-hour visit where they walked through it. Supposedly there's something about a cracked foundation. I haven't got the report, so our foundation, most of it is actually cinder block. So I was like historically joking, saying there's a crack every 12 inches, but I don't know where there's a crack in the foundation. Otherwise, there is a crack in the sidewalk in the front. There is some dry rot. With the previous contractors that were there before, that were just looking at resiting the building, I believe it was like $62,000 to do what was left, to do the back door and resite the rest of it, and they were gonna have to remove some panels and replace them, but that was encompassing everything. They were looking at about 60-70 grand. CGBD grant, possibly.
Because I did see, I remember seeing the report on the foundation and all that, and that there was some serious issues with the foundation, and that, is this now demo it and redo it or whatever?
And so, like I said, Summer, I've asked her numerous times. She's been trying to get it from Julie. She's been working hard on trying to retrieve it. She found the contractor we were actually just talking about the other day. She found who the contractor is, and she's trying to get the report so she can put it together so we can all look at it. Because I have never saw that.
Thanks. That's all I have.
And you've been under the building.
Yeah, I've been in it for just about 4 years now, I believe.
No, but I mean, you shared with me that you
Yeah.
put some lines into there, and
we lost IT services due to the IT director shifting and Coos Curry Electric becoming the contractor. It was easier for me to just move the Cat 5 lens for some of them myself than to have them come down and do it. And so, I mean, there's some stuff under there. It didn't look horrible. I mean, I've crawled under houses before. I sweated copper, so I did plumbing, and I was like, I've seen a lot worse.
Okay.
Everything for the most part underneath that I saw looked solid, but I didn't want to be under a morgue too long.
Yeah.
You know, the joke is people were dying to get in there before, they still are today.
Right.
He's actually got some veterans that have helped down there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put on the nail belt.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Any more questions? All right, thanks, Tony.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
You guys have a
Tony.
great day. Thank you.
We're a little ahead of schedule, but I think
Richard's long-winded. Richard's long-winded anyway.
Beware. Good day, Commissioners and Budget Committee. And so, I think I'll just start with, overall, there's 10 budgets we're looking at here today, and overall, they're in line, and we're waiting for some transfers in revenue, but I think it has to do with the new accounting system, and I'm not worried about anything. There's a possibility I will be asking for a supplemental budget for towers. Yesterday, I was kind of notified by FEMA that our grant application I've been working on for 8 months is going to be denied, and they asked me to put in for a different grant, and I'm done. And so I've been working on it for 8 months. So that generator, it's a $50,000 generator. So I'm going to try to do the work in-house, and I'll be presenting to you in the next couple board meetings, trying to make that happen. But if we start with operations, the number one, there's revenue transfers that are pending and running behind, but got some good news and bad news. The shared motor vehicle tax and DMV, that's running, I'm thinking about $250,000 low because of COVID-19. So, you know, we had put in 2.3 million. It's probably gonna be around 2 million. Well, unsure still. It bounces around from what I'm seeing. We had miscellaneous revenue come in from our interagency chip seal project with the state where we chip sealed Carpenterville, and some other small project of $84,000. The STIP fund exchange, that's in process. We'll be receiving that actually it's $271,000 from the state here the next few months.
Shop 271, you said?
Yeah, it's 271,000
It says
and change.
278 here.
Yeah, it's a little bit less.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, and then shop revenue's down a little bit. Then we have another reimbursement miscellaneous. This reimbursement is when we were paving up north, we reached out to City of Port Orford if they wanted any of their roads paved, and they piggybacked on our quotes, and so they're just reimbursing our cost for that work. You have, that was $97,000 or $97,000. The one big hit that we're going to have is the reimbursement for ODOT Federal Highway. The Morrill Bridge project, we hit a major roadblock with that with State Historic Preservation Office. It ended up being where our bridge site is a tribal site, and it's and during our archaeological investigation we found items. So but it is moving forward but slower, and so I don't see that $1 million coming in this year, but I only see a few $100,000 going out for engineering and archaeological.
Which bridge is that, Rich?
Morrill Bridge. It's at the dead end, the very dead end of Flores. Our right-of-way ends like 10 feet past the bridge. So anyways, but that project, it's moving forward. Things are going well. South Coast Lumber owns all the property, and we're currently securing the right-of-way, any construction easements. So everything's going good, but delayed. Next one, I had projected $500,000. I'm projecting now we're going to end up receiving about $1 million, because at the time I did this budget, I was expecting $1.1 million in these 3 big FEMA projects. It ended up being about $1.7 million after going through all the governmental red tape. Good news. The best news is on the road capital improvement. At the time when I did this budget, I was expecting only about $1.5 million in rollover funds, but we had over $5 million of rollover funds, and that's because SRS funds came in that we weren't expecting, and there was extra additional governmental money that came into our budget that turned into rollover funds. So I'm expecting that to not touch the road capital fund this year if everything continues as it is. The next big line item is salaries and personal services. We're running under 9% or 8%, and we've been running very short-handed, and you'll see that our regular salaries are running under, and our overtime is up, and so some of this has been taken up with overtime work, but also some of it's been taken up with the state highway department helped us with our chip seal with their staff. With everything, that's looking good. Then going down to expenditures, the one that sticks out to me that's 83% or 84% is pro services contractors. We did a big project down there on Checo River, the Riverview Trail for Loeb Park. That's completed, and also we had to do some public improvements to support the Rogue Pacific subdivision here in Gold Beach. But we have one small project, so I expect to come in budget or under budget in that. The other one that really sticks out for me is rental equipment. We're way over. Our jet rod trailer broke down, and we've been renting Vector trucks from a couple agencies. And I'll be reaching out to the board about that in next year's budget. The other one that going down, I see we're over, is on our culverts, road culverts. Some of this had to do with the storm improvements we needed to perform to support the Road Pacifica subdivision that went in. And also Lower Harbor Road storm drains. So these things were unexpected. But overall, I think it's going to be a washout because there's other line items we're running under. And overall in this budget right now, we're running about 8% under budget. So any questions on the 115 budget? Okay, we'll go to the next one, the road fund. This is the one that everyone's really concerned with, including the road department's one of our biggest concerns is that, and like I was saying, we were planning on pulling $4.2 million out of there this year for our CIP projects, and but due to the rollover funds that were brought to my attention by CENA, we may not need to do that, so we'll maintain that $25 million in the road fund. So that's great news.
Indeed.
Big news.
Then the next one is bike and footpath. This is just a real small fund that we use every year. It's 1% of the state motor vehicle fuel tax, and we do our bike lane striping with those funds. And so that striping came in under budget by $125 basically. So we're looking good. That's done. The roadside improvement fund's the next one, and that is money that was put away by a developer for capital improvements on Titus Lane, and we're going to be expending. This fund will disappear this next fiscal year as we will be doing a complete overlay of Titus to the cost. The general vehicle service fund, it's doing well. It's right now, this is all the vehicles that belong to general service, including the sheriff's department, everything but road department. We're currently running 19% under budget for maintaining all the vehicles. So that's doing well. The next one is the vehicle replacement fund. This is all the sheriff's vehicles and general service vehicles. And we're just waiting for some, everything's looking good. We're just waiting for some transfers. I expect that to be in budget. Self-insurance for general services. We're running under budget. We normally have like a 10-year average of about $9,000 a year if you had divided out. And so there's been no real impact to that this year, so we're under budget. Self-insurance for all road department heavy equipment and vehicles. We very seldom dip into this, but it's there in case we have a catastrophic issue. And so far we've just had a few broken windows through doing our maintenance activities, and that happens every year. Yeah, because our equipment, when we're chopping trees and stuff, it's throwing chips, and sometimes it hits windows.
Probably that mower operator.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a tree limb through my excavator window a couple of weeks ago, so I know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last one, this is the one that really concerns me, and we're still working on it and updating our agreements with Day Wireless for our end users. And this one here is one of my biggest concerns. And so, but right now it's running okay, other than I had a generator blow up a year ago. Cape Blanco. It's an old diesel generator. Actually, it's not that old, but the new fuels, diesel fuels, had gelled up all the injection system and ruined the motor. It needs about $9,000 worth of repairs. I could buy a brand new generator for $18,000, but all the labor, equipment, electrician, I'm thinking $30,000-$40,000, and that's something I'm gonna be reaching out to you in the next, 2 to 4 weeks about supporting the road department moving forward with that work. Bonneville Power Association, they're connected to this tower, and our agreement says that we will maintain backup emergency power, and they constantly have a signal saying, hey, that's not working. And so I reached out to them and let them know as well that I'm going to just try to replace this generator here in the next few months. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Mr. Boyce.
Page 26 on your vehicle replacements. That's always one that interests me. With all the less travel and just less mileage, and you said even your shop activity was down just a little bit. Do you feel like is there a schedule that we're going to replace some vehicles anytime soon?
Yeah, there is, and it's from that workshop we had a couple of years ago where, forget the name of the company, the board brought the company in here.
Enterprise.
They
Yes.
came in, and we were looking at maybe them taking over our fleet and the maintenance and sales and procurement. And the only thing that I didn't do that they do is sell vehicles on a 3-year flip, because we're able to buy at a governmental rate, but after 3 years we can sell on a public rate. And so that's what we chose to do at that time, 2 years ago. So we plan on selling several vehicles in the next year or two that we bought, a year or two ago, 3 ago. So yeah, we plan on doing that. And overall, we're thinking it's going to save us money in the long run, because we're not going to, by the time these vehicles need any maintenance or repairs, they're already be gone. And we're looking at maybe, it might cost a few $1,000s to flip these vehicles. And so we're going to try it, see how it lands. And that's what we're doing, except for vehicles like, the sheriff's department, and some of these other departments, they put a lot of cages in them and different items. And those vehicles, I don't really see us flipping. And also with the road department, there's some pickup trucks that I might have real expensive toolboxes, and there's a lot of, it's not just a standard vehicle, probably won't flip those as well either. But if it's a standard vehicle in the building department, juvenile, road department, we plan on flipping them at 3 years. Where we'll go ahead and project out I'll find out what the cost is for the new vehicle. We'll project what we could sell the vehicles we have, and I'll reach out to the board at that time and make a decision.
What was the prior cycle of buying
Hold
some?
on to them till the wheels fell off,
Okay.
and then buy a new set of wheels.
Okay.
Literally.
Yeah.
All right.
And just so you know, so the way we do this is, because of the government way we get to buy them, we get them at a pretty good discount. So in about 3 years, you're selling them right at the warranty expiration for the general warranty, but you've still got a 2-year warranty on the drivetrain and those kinds